A new $quarter mule has been discovered. So, what do you do when you find a discovery coin? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit. There's a hint in the article of what happened with this coin when it was submitted. And I also want to talk about a couple of coins here that came into the shop that one's a variety, one's a mint error, and we're going to talk about the difference here. But one of them you might not have heard of before. So stay tuned. But first, here's my website, portsmouthcoinshop.com. And if you need help with mint errors, click this link right here, Help with Mint Errors, and it'll take you over to our Coin Help You community where you can ask the question. Please refrain from calling this number or any other number for about mint errors because we can't help you over the phone. We actually have to see the coin, and you have the ability over here. You join for free, and you can post your images. If you're interested in buying coins, then you can scroll down through and check out all of our categories, or just look at our coins that we have to offer. We have graded coins. We have mint error coins on here. We have silver rounds for sale. So we have a little bit of everything. Mint sets and proof set sale, 5% off. So if you get a chance, check out portsmouthcoinshop.com. So first, let's talk about this. This is a South Carolina 2000 quarter. And it's a mule with a dollar. Now, that's why it looks like it has a double rim, because the quarter is just a tad bit smaller, even though it's almost the same size as a Sacagawea dollar. Okay. But this is what happened. So the person found this, and it said 22 years after its production. Now, this is Coin World, by the way. The only known example of a double denomination mule error coin featuring a Sacagawea dollar obverse and the reverse of a South Carolina state quarter dollar has been authenticated and certified as genuine by Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. Okay, so it explains what a mule is, so you understand what a mule is. And the grading service shipped the coin to error specialist Fred Weinberg for his professional opinion. So they actually got this coin and realized it was something and sent it off. That's not typical of PCGS or NGC. They'll usually just grade your coin, but since it was a mule, it's kind of hard to ignore it. It's not one of those things where you send them a double die and they're like looking at it and they're not really going to, because they're not a die variety attributor or mint error attributor here. That's why they had to send it to someone else. And they typically don't do it. I'm sure they probably called or emailed the owner that submitted the coin, because that's not what they do. Okay, they just grade coins and authenticate coins, and they'll label it if they have it as a catalog number. And that's very important to note when you find a discovery coin. You can't just send it to PCGS. Now, something like this was kind of an exception. I mean, if you look at the coin, it's obvious one side's a Sacagawea dollar and the other side's a quarter, and it didn't appear to be altered. But so they sent it in. So it's kind of hard to, they didn't ignore that fact. But typically, they do not send things off to have them attributed for you. So you might send in a double die, and since it's not listed on their site and you didn't put it under the mint error tier, at least you have to submit it under the mint error tier. If you don't do that, then, they're going to send it back just graded. And unfortunately, that's how it works. So you have to make sure you go through the due process here, because there is a process when you find something new. And a lot of people wanting to post what they think are discovery coins in our coin community or somewhere else, that they need to be asking how we can get this verified, because you can't attribute coins that are discovery coins using images. Someone has to actually look at that coin in hand, and then they have to do a die variety search, or they have to do a mint error search and make sure that that mint error, that die variety, has never been discovered before. And people who do that for a living are guys like Fred Weinberg or Wexler or Mike Diamond, guys like that. That's what they do. Okay, they've got the name in the business. So that's where you need to be seeking help. Our Coin Help You community, the scope of that community is just to help you, maybe identify if it's a double die or not, or maybe help you identify a known double die. But it really gets beyond the scope of the help community when it comes to trying to do the discovery stuff. That's just not how it works. Now, Paul, who is one of our admins and members, he will accept submissions. So you could send it to him. You could send him a private message. But private messages on there, you want to make sure that you're asking before you send private messages. So if you have something on there, Paul will ask you to send him a private message over it, and he can take a look at it and see if it's worth, maybe submitting to him. And then I have a couple other coins I want to share here. And these coins, they came into the shop. One of them is the low leaf 2004 Wisconsin quarter. Now this one is worth a little over $100. Looks mint state, probably mint state 63, 64. It came in, you can see the obverse here. It came in like this, ungraded. Now there is the high leaf and the low leaf on these, and you can still find these sometimes. I think this person did find this. You might find it in a roll, maybe in a bag, a mint bag or something. I'm not sure of the details where this has been found before, as far as like if there's a certain region or area in the United States they're most prominently found. I'm sure that that's the case with a lot of these. That's the case. And I want to show everyone over here on PCGS that the values here. You have the high leaf right here, and then the low leaf, which I have, and it shows you what grade they are. And based off of how much you have in the coin, is it worth sending off for grading? Mine's not worth sending off for grading. I paid them, I think, $100 for it or something like that. So I figure I could sell it for, 115 or something like that, or just keep it. And my plan was really just to keep it. It wasn't anything else. I bought it as part of a collection. I can actually have $80 in it if I want to. It doesn't really matter. It's all was one part of a whole collection. Then here's kind of a mysterious coin. This is something a little bit different. Some of you might remember these. It's the Bison detached leg. Now, what it is the leg is not completely attached, and what happened was, and this is why I talk about this being a, maybe a die stage or a mint error instead of a die variety. If this would get assigned as something was, changed on the die, which it was, this could technically become a die variety if it was assigned a number and actually, put in a cherry picker's guide or listed. So far, that's not happened. At one time, these were kind of popular on eBay. This is a low-grade example. It's in an old Annex holder here, little soap bar. Now, what's odd about this is that PCGS even graded examples of this. Is an example of the PCGS price guide, and I always tell people don't send coins to PCGS under the mint error tier or variety tier if it's not listed. Now, mint errors are different, but varieties, I should have said varieties. Anything that's a variety, PCGS usually has listed here. So the Speared Bison, which is a die gouge, not a crack or anything, it's a die gouge, is actually listed here, but they don't have the detached leg. So the fact that they actually put it in a holder here, and this is what they sold for, and I'll show you the PCGS, they did put detached leg on it. PCGS did. It sold for $69 in 2010. And the price to send it off is about $60-some. That's not including your membership and your shipping. But the fees and all cost you about that much when you send it under the mint error tier. So it's really not worth sending off unless it grades higher than 64. Hard to get examples that grade higher than 64. So one of the things to look at, other auctions too. And the last one that sold was a mint state 65, and it sold in an Annex holder for $156. Now, there's no examples on here that have sold after that. So I don't know whether Heritage is no longer accepting these or they just kind of went out of flavor. Who knows? You can go to eBay and you can see examples over here that you could buy. Here's one you can buy for $19.99. Here's one that's graded 69, and there is a proof example of this as well. There is a detached leg for proof. Now, they've got these prices on, but this is not what they've sold for. So what you have to do is click the sold auctions, what they've actually sold for. So here's one. I don't know why in the world that sold for $1,000. Wow, that's probably not a legit auction there. But you do have examples that are sold for $19.50, $30. So yeah, it's not really worth sending off for grading and selling. Annex seems to be the one that's still labeling these. Don't see PCGS here. So I don't know if PCGS will or not, but that's what happens when you have these fad coins. These coins that, they come out at first and someone's looking for anything different on them, and somehow they get a grading company like Annex, and even PCGS in this case, to actually label it as a detached leg. When in reality, they were probably removing clash marks on the die, and it just removed part of the leg, so it looks like it's detached. It's no different than what happened with the 3-leg, except it removed the whole leg, and you had a lot of die deterioration. They were trying to preserve the dies to make them last longer. That happens too. And so you have all these different instances. This definitely, detached leg, is riding on the coattails of the 3-leg and the 3.5 leg that we do know of. And that's obvious, but it just didn't gain the popularity or the traction and didn't get an actual die variety attribution here. So that's the real issue why this is not worth a whole lot of money. It's not really dramatic. I mean, you just got a little space there. So that's why it's called attached. So I wanted to share all that with you. So we do have this discovery, and I explained a little bit of what you do with the discovery coin. The best course of action for you would be to send it to someone who actually attributes discovery coins. You know, posting them in help communities and all that stuff. I mean, it's just really not very fruitful because no one can actually see your coin. And a lot of times you're not going to be able to post good enough images at enough angles to actually satisfy the eyes of someone who actually would know anyways. So it's really not, it's kind of a no-win if you think you have something new. So thanks for watching my latest video. Please like, share, and comment, and have a great day.